The research ship called Luminous Accord floated through empty space like a broken toy. Its metal walls had holes in them and smoke came out from several places. Inside the ship, things were very bad. The lights kept turning on and off. Strange sounds came from the walls. The air was getting harder to breathe with each passing minute. Captain Ventara sat in her command chair and tried not to show how scared she was. Her hands shook as she pressed the buttons on her console. She was an Arxian, which meant she looked quite different from humans. Her skin was light blue and very smooth. She had 3 fingers on each hand instead of 5. Her eyes were bigger than human eyes and colored like purple gems. Right now, those eyes were full of fear. All around her, the other Arxians on the bridge were trying to fix their dying ship. Some of them had cuts and bruises. One had a broken arm. They all looked terrified because they knew what was coming. The pirates who attacked them were still out there. They were waiting. Soon they would come back to finish what they started. Ventara looked at the damage reports on her screen. They were terrible. The ship's engines were broken. The shields were gone. Most of the weapons never worked in the first place because Arxians were peaceful people. They spent their time studying stars and planets, not fighting wars. They had no soldiers, no battle training, no experience with violence at all. The attack had come without warning. 3 ships belonging to the Krenth species had appeared from nowhere. The Krenth were pirates and killers. They attacked anyone who looked weak and took whatever they wanted. The Arxians had tried to run away, but their ship was too slow. The Krenth had fired their weapons and torn huge holes in the Luminous Accord's hull. Then, for some reason, they had stopped shooting and moved away. They were watching now, waiting like hungry wolves around injured prey. Ventara knew why they were waiting. They wanted to see if anyone would answer the distress call. If a military ship came, the Krenth would run away. If nobody came, they would move back in and take everything. They would probably kill everyone on board, too. The science officer named Drellmon looked up from his station. His face was even paler than usual. Drellmon was young, barely out of the academy. This was his first mission in deep space. "Now it might be his last, Captain," he said in a quiet voice. "Should I send the distress call?" Ventara wanted to say yes immediately, but she hesitated. Sending a distress call meant showing everyone how weak they were. It meant admitting they could not protect themselves. For a proud species like the Arxians, that was hard to accept. But pride would not save them. Pride would not fix their ship or drive away the pirates. "Yes," she finally said. "Send it. Use all frequencies. Send it to everyone." Drellman's fingers moved across his controls. A moment later, their emergency message went out into space, traveling at the speed of light. It was a simple message that explained who they were, where they were, and that they were dying. It asked for help from anyone who could hear it. Now all they could do was wait and hope that someone friendly would answer. The Arxian collective had friends among the stars. The peaceful Vren species, the artistic Thelans, the wise Kasari. Any of them would help. They had treaties and agreements. They were civilized peoples who helped each other. The minutes crawled by like hours. The air kept getting worse. Some of the crew started coughing. The lights flickered more often. Strange grinding sounds came from deep inside the ship where the engines were supposed to be working. Then Drellmon gasped. His eyes went very wide. "Captain," he said, and his voice was shaking. "We have a response." Relief flooded through Ventara. Someone had heard them. They would be saved. "Who is it?" she asked. "Is it the Collective Defense Fleet?" "The Vren Patrol." Drellmon looked at his screen like he could not believe what he was seeing. He checked it twice. Then he looked at his captain and said the words that made her blood turn cold. "It's human, Captain. The response is coming from a human ship." Every single Arxian on the bridge stopped what they were doing. They all turned to stare at Drellmon. Nobody spoke for several long seconds. The only sounds were the damaged ship creaking and groaning around them. Humans. The Deathworlders. Everyone in the galaxy had heard the stories about humans. They came from a planet called Earth, which was one of the most dangerous worlds anyone had ever found. Earth had extreme gravity that made its people incredibly strong. It had terrible weather that killed thousands. It had creatures that hunted and killed for food. Earthquakes shook the ground. Volcanoes exploded. Storms could destroy entire cities, and the humans had survived all of that. More than survived, they had conquered their world. They had climbed to the top of the food chain through violence and cunning. They were predators in every sense of the word. Their eyes faced forward like hunters. Their teeth could tear meat. Their hands could crush and break. They were fast and strong and dangerous. The civilized species of the galaxy had made a quiet agreement among themselves. Stay away from humans. Do not make them angry. Do not get involved with them. Let them stay on the outer edges of known space where they belonged. Humans were useful sometimes, yes. They made good mercenaries and soldiers, but you did not want them too close. You definitely did not want to owe them favors, and now they were coming here. The communication system crackled with sound. Then a voice came through. It was deep and rough, the kind of voice that suggested power and danger. It spoke in the common trade language that most species used, but with a strange accent that made some words sound harsh. Luminous Accord, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Terran colonial ship Valiant. We have received your distress call and we are coming to your position. Our estimated time of arrival is 12 minutes. Hold on tight. Help is on the way. Ventara stared at the communication panel. Her mouth was dry. Her hearts were beating too fast. Humans were coming. Humans were coming here. To help them. Or so they said. But what did humans really want? What would they do when they arrived? Would they help or would they make things worse? She thought about the Krenth pirates outside. She thought about her dying ship. She thought about her crew who would suffocate or freeze when the life support finally failed. Then she thought about the humans coming toward them right now. Deathworlders with their predator instincts and their violent history, coming to her broken ship full of weak, defenseless Arxians who could not fight back even if they wanted to. Captain, Drellmon whispered, what do we do? Ventara did not know. She honestly did not know. So she just said, we wait, and we prepare for whatever happens next. On the view screen, space looked empty, but sensors showed something different. Ships were coming. Not just one ship. Multiple ships. A whole battle group of human warships was approaching their position at high speed. The Arxians had sent out a simple call for help. What was arriving was something much bigger and much more frightening than anything they had expected. Lieutenant Commander Kate Sullivan stood at her station on the bridge of the TCS Valiant. Her eyes moved across the displays in front of her, reading all the information that the ship's sensors were gathering. She had been in the military for 12 years now, and had seen many strange things in space. But this situation was unusual even for her. The Arxian ship looked terrible on the scanners. Kate could see exactly where the hull had been torn open by weapons fire. She could see the power systems failing one by one. She could see the life signs of the crew, 17 individuals who were running out of time very quickly. Captain Morrison, she said in a clear, professional voice, I am reading 17 life signs aboard the target vessel. There are hull breaches on decks 3, 4, and 5. Their power core is not stable. It looks like it might explode. Captain Jake Morrison sat in the command chair at the center of the bridge. He was 53 years old with gray hair at his temples and lines on his face from years of military service. He had fought in the border wars against the Krenth Confederacy. He had seen combat more times than he wanted to remember, but he had also saved hundreds of lives during his career, and he planned to save 17 more today. What about the hostiles? He asked. Kate checked her sensors again. 3 Krenth vessels holding position near that asteroid field. They are definitely watching us, sir. Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the cold smile of a man who knew exactly how dangerous he was. I bet they are watching, he said. They are trying to decide if they want to fight us or run away. Helm position us between the Arxians and those pirates. Make sure they can see all our weapons. Communications. Open a channel to the Luminous Accord. A young officer at the communications station pressed several buttons. A moment later, the main view screen changed. Now it showed the bridge of the Arxian ship. Jake had seen aliens before, many different kinds, but the Arxians looked so fragile and delicate. Their skin was thin and pale. Their bodies were small and weak, and right now they all looked absolutely terrified. The Arxian captain sat very still in her chair. Her purple eyes were wide with fear. Jake could see her trying to control her breathing. He had seen that look before on people who thought they were about to die. Captain Ventara, he said, keeping his voice as gentle as possible. I am Captain Jake Morrison. We are here to help you. Can you give me a status report on your ship? Ventara seemed to struggle to speak. Her mouth opened and closed several times before words came out. Captain Morrison, we have 43 of your minutes before life support fails completely. We have wounded crew members who need medical attention. The Krenth destroyed our engines. We managed to hurt them enough to make them back away, but they are still out there. Understood completely, Jake said. We are sending over our damage control teams right now. Lieutenant Alan Peters will lead the rescue operation. He is very good at his job. You can trust him. The Arxian captain's eyes somehow got even wider. Her skin went even paler. You are sending people to board our ship? Jake frowned a little bit. Ma'am, with all respect, your people are dying. We have medical facilities that can help your wounded. We have engineers who can patch those holes in your hull. Is there some kind of problem with that? Ventara looked at the other Arxians on her bridge. They all looked back at her. They seemed to be having a silent conversation with their eyes. Finally, the captain spoke again. Her voice was very quiet and small. Captain Morrison, we have heard stories about your species, about humans, about what you are capable of doing. Understanding came to Jake's face. He sighed and rubbed his forehead. Ah, he said. The Deathworlder reputation, I see. Look, Captain, I know what they say about humans out there in the wider galaxy. Some of those stories are probably true. We do come from a very dangerous planet. We are good at fighting when we need to fight. But right now, you have a simple choice in front of you. You can let us help you and live, or you can refuse our help and die when your life support fails. It is your decision to make. Ventara looked at her dying ship. She looked at her scared crew. She looked at the screens showing all the damage and failures. She thought about the Krenth pirates waiting outside like hungry predators. Then she made her choice. Permission granted for boarding operations, Captain Morrison. That was a smart choice, Jake said. Morrison out. The screen went dark. Kate Sullivan walked closer to the captain's chair. She kept her voice low so only he could hear. Sir, the Krenth vessels are moving. They are forming up into an attack pattern. Jake's expression turned hard and cold. They are testing us. They want to see what we will do. Tactical officer, lock weapons onto their ships. Target their weapon systems specifically. Do not fire unless I give the direct order. Let's show these pirates what happens when they attack people who are under human protection now. All across the bridge, the crew moved to follow their orders. They had trained for situations like this many times. Outside the ship, the human warships began to move into a defensive formation. They positioned themselves in a way that would protect the Arxian vessel from any direction. Their weapons powered up. Their shields strengthened. They were ready for battle. On the luminous Accord bridge, Ventara watched her damaged sensors. She could see the human shuttles launching from the big warships. The shuttles were heading straight toward her ship. Inside those shuttles were human soldiers coming to board her vessel. Coming inside her ship where her weak, defenseless crew was trapped, she had sent out a call for help hoping that friends would answer. Instead, the Deathworlders were coming. Now all she could do was pray that she had not made a terrible mistake. All she could do was hope that the stories about humans were wrong, or at least that they would not hurt people who could not fight back. Captain, Drellmond said from his station, the Krenth ships are moving back. They are putting more distance between themselves and the human fleet. Ventara felt a tiny bit of relief. At least the pirates were afraid of the humans. That was something. But it also proved how dangerous humans were. The Krenth were vicious killers who feared almost nothing, yet they were backing away from the human warships. Captain, another officer said, the human shuttles are requesting permission to dock. This was it. The moment of truth. Once those shuttles docked, once those humans came aboard, there would be no going back. They would be inside her ship, inside her home. She would be completely at their mercy. But what choice did she have? None. No choice at all. Grant them permission, she said. Open docking port 7. As the first human shuttle connected to her ship, Ventara sat very still in her chair. She tried to look calm and brave for her crew. But inside, she was more frightened than she had ever been in her entire life. The humans were coming. The Deathworlders were coming aboard, and whatever happened next would change everything. Through the walls, she could hear the sounds of the docking clamps engaging. She could hear the hiss of the airlock opening. She could hear the heavy footsteps of humans in their armored suits walking into her ship. The footsteps were so heavy, so loud. It reminded her that humans came from a high-gravity world. They were so much stronger than her people. They could probably tear an Arxian apart with their bare hands if they wanted to, but they had said they were here to help. They had said they would save her crew. She had to believe that. She had to hope that was true, because if it was not true, then she had just let predators into a ship full of prey. and there was absolutely nothing anyone could do to stop them. Lieutenant Alan Peters walked through the airlock and stepped onto the Arxian ship. The first thing he noticed was the smell. It was not bad exactly, just very different. It smelled like flowers mixed with electricity. The second thing he noticed was how light he felt. The artificial gravity on this ship was much weaker than what humans were used to. Every step felt like he might float away. Behind him came his damage control team. There were 8 people total, all wearing their work uniforms and carrying equipment. They had practiced this kind of rescue operation many times in training. But training was different from the real thing. Training did not have scared aliens watching your every move. "All right, everyone, listen up," Alan said to his team. "Remember the briefing we had? The Arxians evolved on a low-gravity world. They are much more fragile than we are. Do not touch them unless it is absolutely necessary. If you must touch them, be extremely gentle. We are built like tanks compared to these people. We could hurt them by accident very easily." A woman named Linda Hayes nodded. She was the medical specialist on the team. She had her medical kit slung over her shoulder and a determined look on her face. "I understand, Lieutenant. I will be very careful with the wounded." They moved deeper into the ship. The corridors were a complete mess. Wires hung down from the ceiling, sparking and smoking. The walls were black with burn marks from weapons fire. Some of the floor panels had been torn up. It was clear that this ship had taken a terrible beating from the Krenth attack. As they walked, Alan noticed something. The corridor was designed for people much smaller than humans. He had to duck his head to avoid hitting it on the ceiling. His shoulders almost touched both walls at the same time. It made him feel huge and clumsy. It made him very aware of how much space he took up. They found the first injured Arxian around the next corner. It was a young male who had been thrown against a wall when the artificial gravity failed. He was curled up on the floor, holding his arm and making small sounds of pain. When he saw the humans coming toward him, his eyes went huge and he tried to back away. Linda approached very slowly and carefully. She held her hands out where he could see them. She made sure to move in a way that did not seem threatening. "Hey there," she said in the softest voice she could manage. "My name is Linda. I'm a medic. That means I am a healer. I am here to help you. Can you tell me where it hurts?" The Arxian stared at her. His whole body was shaking with fear. Linda knew what she looked like to him. She knew that humans looked like predators to most other species. The forward-facing eyes, the visible muscles, the teeth, everything about human biology screamed danger to herbivore species. "It is okay," Linda continued in that same soft voice. "I promise I am not going to hurt you. I just want to help. I am going to use this scanner to check your injuries. Is that all right?" She pulled out her medical scanner very slowly. The Arxian flinched away from it at first. Linda waited patiently until he gave a tiny nod of permission. She ran the scanner over his body, reading the results on the small screen. "You have 2 broken bones in your arm," she explained. "I can fix that. I have a tool called a bone knitter. It will hurt a little bit at first, but then you will feel much better. Do you trust me?" The Arxian looked into her eyes for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded again. Linda smiled at him and got to work. Her large human hands moved with surprising delicacy and precision. She had done this procedure hundreds of times before. Within 5 minutes, the broken bones were healed. The Arxian moved his arm carefully, testing it. His eyes went wide with amazement. "Thank you," he whispered in the trade language. "You are very welcome," Linda said with a warm smile. "Now stay here and rest for a few minutes. We will come back to check on you." Meanwhile, the rest of the team had reached the engine room. Chief Engineer Carlos Diaz looked around at the damage and let out a low whistle. "These Krenth pirates really destroyed this place," he said. One of his team members, a young man named Greg Hamilton, asked, "Can we actually fix this, Chief?" Carlos grinned. "Fix it? Son, when we are done here, this engine is going to run better than it did when this ship first left the factory. Trust me. Let us get to work." The human engineers spread out through the engine room. They worked with incredible speed and efficiency. They had tools and equipment that the Arxians had never seen before. They had knowledge of engineering principles that seemed almost magical. One support beam had collapsed and was blocking access to a critical system. 2 humans simply walked over to it, grabbed it with their bare hands, and lifted it back into place. They held it there, supporting thousands of pounds of weight, while another human welded it back where it belonged. The Arxian engineers watching this happen could not believe what they were seeing. How could anyone be that strong? Back on the bridge of the luminous Accord, Captain Ventara watched everything on her security monitors. She saw Linda Hayes treating wounded Arxians with gentle care. She saw the engineering team repairing systems with amazing skill. She saw humans literally holding up parts of her ship with their raw physical strength. They were not hurting anyone. They were not stealing anything. They were not acting like predators at all. They were just helping. Actually helping, Captain, Drellmund said quietly. They are really doing it. They are saving us. Yes, Ventara replied. She felt confused and amazed at the same time. Yes, they are. A voice came through the communication system. It was Lieutenant Peters. Bridge, this is the damage control team leader. We have sealed all the hull breaches on Deck 4. We are rerouting the life support systems now. You should have stable atmosphere in approximately 10 minutes. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Peters, Ventara managed to say. Just doing our job, ma'am. Oh, Captain Morrison asked me to tell you something. The Krenth vessels have left the area. Apparently, they did not like the odds once they got a good look at our battle group. You are safe now. Safe. Ventara had not felt safe in hours, but now with human warships surrounding her vessel and human engineers fixing her ship, she actually did feel safe. It was a strange feeling. She was safe because of the Deathworlders, protected by the very species that everyone feared. In the medical bay, Linda Hayes was treating a badly injured Arxian. The woman had been near an explosion and had burns on her arms and legs. Linda worked carefully, applying medicines and bandages. She talked to the injured woman the whole time, explaining what she was doing, keeping her calm and distracted from the pain. You are going to be just fine, Linda said. These burns look worse than they actually are. This medicine we use was developed on Earth for treating burns. Earth has a lot of fires, you see. Wildfires that burn whole forests, so we got very good at treating burns. You will heal up nicely. The Arxian woman looked up at Linda. Why are you helping us? She asked. Everyone says humans are dangerous. Everyone says to stay away from your kind. Linda paused in her work. She thought about how to answer that question. We are dangerous, she finally said. That part is true. Humans can be very dangerous when we need to be, but being capable of violence and choosing violence are two different things. We choose to help instead. We choose to heal instead of hurt. Does that make sense? The Arxian woman nodded slowly. I think so. Thank you for choosing to help us. You are very welcome, Linda said. Hours passed. The human teams worked without stopping. They fixed the engines. They repaired the hull. They treated the wounded. They restored the life support systems. They even improved some things that had not been working properly even before the attack. Captain Ventara walked through her ship, inspecting the repairs. Everywhere she went, she saw humans working. They were polite and professional. They asked permission before entering rooms. They were careful not to break things with their superior strength. They treated her crew with respect. She found Carlos Diaz in the engine room, putting the finishing touches on the power core repairs. Chief Engineer Diaz, she said. May I speak with you for a moment? Carlos looked up and smiled. Of course, Captain. What can I do for you? I wanted to thank you, Ventara said. You and your team have done incredible work. Our engines have never run this smoothly before. Carlos wiped his hands on a cloth. Well, we made a few improvements while we were at it. I hope you do not mind. Human engineering tends to be a bit overbuilt. We come from a planet where everything has to survive earthquakes and storms and all kinds of disasters, so we build things tough. Your systems should be much more reliable now. I do not mind at all, Ventara said. Then she asked the question that had been bothering her. Why did you come? When you heard our distress call, why did you respond? You must have known we were afraid of humans. Carlos was quiet for a moment. Captain, can I tell you something? Where I come from on Earth, there is an old saying. It says that you judge people not by what they say, but by what they do when it matters. Your people needed help. That is all that mattered to us. Whether you were afraid or not, did not change the fact that you needed saving. So we came. It is as simple as that. Ventara felt something shift inside her mind. Everything she thought she knew about humans was wrong, or at least incomplete. Yes, they were from a death world. Yes, they were strong and dangerous, but they were also kind. They were also helpers. 4 hours had passed since the human fleet arrived. The luminous Accord was no longer dying. The holes in the hull were sealed tight. The engines were humming with power. The life support systems were working better than they had in years. All the wounded crew members had been treated and were recovering well. The ship was saved. Captain Ventara stood in what remained of her private office. The room had been damaged in the attack, but the humans had fixed it. Now she was looking at her communication screen. Captain Morrison's face looked back at her from the display. "Captain Ventara," Jake said, "we have done everything we can for your ship right now. I would recommend you follow us to Waystation Tiberius for complete repairs and a proper dock. But your vessel is safe to fly through space now. You are not in any more danger." Ventara took a deep breath. "Captain Morrison, I need to apologize to you. When we first realized that humans were responding to our distress call, we were afraid. We believed the stories about your people. We thought you might hurt us." Jake's expression became softer and more understanding. "I know, Captain. We are used to that reaction. Most species in the galaxy are afraid of humans. It happens all the time." "But you came anyway," Venatera said. "Even knowing we feared you, you still came to save us. Why would you do that?" Jake leaned back in his chair. He seemed to be thinking about how to explain. "Captain, let me tell you something about humans that does not usually make it into the scary stories everyone tells. Yes, we come from a dangerous planet. Yes, we are built differently than most species out here. Yes, we are good at fighting when we need to fight. But Earth also taught us something very important. It taught us that when someone needs help, you help them. It does not matter who they are. It does not matter if they like you or not. You help because it is the right thing to do." He paused, then continued. "There was an old saying on Earth from before we ever reached the stars. It said that the greatest love a person can show is to give up their life to save their friends. A lot of humans take that idea very seriously. Some of us extend it to include strangers too. Because maybe if we help enough strangers, eventually we will not be strangers anymore. Maybe we will all be friends." Ventara felt her opinion of humans changing even more. "We have been wrong about your people, haven't we?" "Not completely wrong," Jake admitted. "We are dangerous. That part is true. We are from a death world and we are very good at violence when violence is necessary. But Captain, being capable of hurting others and choosing to hurt others are two completely different things. Humans learned a long time ago that just because you can do something does not mean you should do it." A sound came from Ventara's communication panel. It was Drellmon's voice. "Captain, the human medical officer Linda Hayes is asking for permission to leave some supplies in our medical bay," she said. "And I am quoting here, that our medical equipment is completely inadequate for treating serious injuries. She seems quite upset about it." Jake laughed. "That definitely sounds like Linda. She gets very emotional about medical care. She thinks everyone in the galaxy should have access to the best medical equipment possible. It is one of her passions." "Please tell her thank you from all of us," Ventara said. Then she made a decision that surprised even herself. "Captain Morrison, would you and some of your crew be willing to join me and my crew for a meal? It is the least we can do to thank you for saving our lives." Jake looked surprised and then pleased. "We would be honored, Captain. But I should warn you about something. Humans have a very high metabolism. That means we need to eat more often than most species. We also eat quite a lot compared to our body size. I would not want to use up too much of your food supplies." "We will make it work," Venatara promised. "Please come aboard in 1 hour." 1 hour later, a very unusual gathering was taking place in the dining area of the Luminous Accord. Human crew members sat carefully at tables that were designed for much smaller and lighter people. They were trying very hard not to break anything. The Arxians, who were still nervous but becoming braver, were serving food from their home world. It was mostly plant-based dishes with complex flavors. Linda Hayes sat across from the young Arxian male she had treated earlier. His name was Kelvas, and he was an engineering student. He kept staring at Linda with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Finally, he gathered enough courage to ask a question. "Is it true," he said quietly, "that your planet has creatures that hunt in groups and can track their prey for many days without stopping?" "Oh, you mean wolves," Linda said with a smile. "Yes, they are real. They are beautiful animals, actually. Very intelligent and social. Humans domesticated their ancestors thousands of years ago. Now we keep them as pets. We call them dogs." Kelvis looked absolutely horrified. "You keep pack predators in your homes? As companions? Living with you?" "Best friends a human can have," Linda said warmly. "Dogs are loyal and loving. They are wonderful with children. A lot of humans consider their dogs to be part of their family. I have a dog back home named Copper. He is a golden retriever. I miss him a lot when I am out in space. Kelvis could not seem to wrap his mind around this concept. Humans kept predators as pets. They let them live in their homes with their children. It was completely insane, and yet Linda spoke about her dog with such obvious love and affection. Maybe humans were even stranger than the story suggested. At another table, Carlos Diaz was surrounded by Arxian engineers who wanted to know everything about human technology. They asked question after question. How did human engines work? What materials did humans use? How did they build ships that could survive such extreme conditions? The thing you need to understand about human engineering, Carlos explained, is that we overbuild everything. We are used to equipment that has to survive earthquakes and hurricanes and all kinds of terrible weather. We build things on the assumption that something will go wrong. So we add extra strength, extra redundancy, extra safety systems. It makes our ships heavier and more expensive, but it also makes them very reliable. Human ships can take a beating and keep working. One of the Arxian engineers asked. But does that not make them less efficient? Carlos shrugged. Maybe a little, but we would rather have a ship that is slightly less efficient and still working than a ship that is very efficient but breaks down when something goes wrong. Survival is more important than perfection. Captain Morrison found himself sitting with Captain Van Terra. Both of them were watching their crews interact. It was a strange sight, predators and prey sitting together, eating together, talking together. By all the rules of biology and evolution, this should not work. And yet it was working. Your crew is remarkable, Captain, Van Terra said softly. They are so gentle with us, so patient. It must be difficult for them. We are so much weaker than humans. They must have to control themselves constantly to avoid hurting us by accident. Jake shook his head. It is not difficult. It comes naturally to them. You see, Captain, humans spent thousands of years learning how to work together. We learned how to control our violent instincts. We learned how to build societies based on cooperation instead of competition. We are not slaves to our biology. Yes, we are shaped by where we come from, but we are also shaped by the choices we make. He gestured toward his crew. Every single person you see here chose to join the fleet. They chose to help others. They chose to be better than just successful predators. That is what humanity is really about. Not where we came from, but what we decide to do with what we were given. Ventara watched as Linda Hayes carefully showed Kelvis pictures of her dog on her personal tablet. The young Arxian's fear was slowly transforming into fascination. She watched Carlos Diaz patiently answering questions from engineers, never acting superior, always respectful and kind. She had sent out a distress call expecting her own people to answer, expecting the civilized species who were her allies and friends. Instead, the Deathworlders had come. The Predators had answered, and they had saved her crew with skill and compassion. Captain Morrison, she said, I am going to file a formal report with the Arxian Collective when we reach the station. I am going to tell them everything that happened here. I am going to recommend that we open diplomatic relations with humanity. We have been wrong about your people. The galaxy has been wrong. Someone needs to start correcting those mistakes. Jake looked at her with respect and gratitude. That is brave of you, Captain. Speaking up for humans will not make you popular with some people in the galactic community. Many species want to keep humans at a distance. Let them think what they want, Ventara said firmly. I know the truth now. You saved us when we needed help. You treated us with kindness when you could have treated us with cruelty. That means something. That means everything. The meal continued. Slowly, the Arxians became more comfortable around the humans. They started asking questions. They started sharing stories. They started to see past the predator appearance to the people underneath. One young Arxian asked Linda how humans managed to live on such a dangerous planet. Linda told her about human cities with buildings that could withstand earthquakes, about weather prediction systems that warned people about storms, about how humans had learned to work with their environment instead of just fighting against it. The next morning, both fleets prepared to travel to Waystation Tiberius. The human ships formed a protective formation around the luminous Accord. It looked like a group of guards escorting someone important through dangerous territory, which in a way was exactly what it was. Captain Ventara stood on her repaired bridge and watched the preparations. Her crew was moving with more confidence now. The terror from yesterday had faded into something else, something calmer. They had survived their encounter with humans. More than survived, they had been helped and healed and treated with respect. Captain, Drellmon said from his station, We are receiving a general broadcast from the Galactic Council. Should I put it on the main screen? Yes, please do. The view screen changed to show Counselor Thexnar of the Vren Confederacy. The Vren were reptilian in appearance with scales that changed color based on their emotions. Right now, Thexnar's scales were a bureaucratic gray. He looked like someone who spent all his time in meetings and did not like to be bothered with real problems. Attention to all vessels in the Kepler sector, Thexnar said in his formal way of speaking. This is an official advisory from the Galactic Council. Human military forces have been detected in this region of space. All civilian vessels are advised to maintain maximum distance and avoid any contact with these forces. This advisory is issued for your safety and protection. That is all. Ventura felt anger rising inside her. She pressed the reply button before she could change her mind. Counselor Thexnar, this is Captain Ventara of the Arxian research vessel Luminous Accord. I am transmitting a formal correction to your advisory. The counselor looked surprised to receive a direct response. He was probably not used to ship captains talking back to him. Captain Ventara, we are merely following standard protocols regarding contact with Deathworlder species. There is no need for corrections. Your protocols are outdated and based on prejudice, not facts, Ventara said firmly. She could see her crew staring at her in shock. Speaking to a council member like this was not done, but she did not care anymore. The human fleet you are warning people about responded to our distress call. They saved my entire crew from Krenth pirates. They repaired our ship. They treated our wounded. They acted with honor and compassion. Your advisory should be thanking them, not warning people away from them. On the bridge of the TCS Valiant, Jake Morrison watched this exchange with growing respect. Kate Sullivan stood beside him with a huge smile on her face. I really like her, sir, Kate said. So do I, Jake agreed. Counselor Thexnar's scales were turning orange with agitation. Captain, you do not understand the full situation. Humans are unpredictable. They are dangerous. They come from a world that should not have produced intelligent life at all. They cannot be trusted to act in civilized ways. They saved my crew, Ventara interrupted. They asked for nothing in return. They were gentle with us even though they could have easily hurt us. They shared their food with us. They showed us pictures of their families and their pets. Counselor, I think I understand the situation better than you do. I have actually spent time with humans. I have seen how they act. Have you? Thexnar seemed to struggle for words. That is not the point. The Council has rules about contact with Deathworlder species. These rules exist for good reasons. Then your rules need to change, Ventara said. I am filing a formal commendation with the Council for Captain Jake Morrison and his entire crew. I am also recommending that the Arxian Collective begin immediate diplomatic talks with humanity. We have much to learn from them. And apparently we have many wrong ideas that need to be corrected. The Councilor's scales were now bright red with anger or embarrassment or both. You have the right to file whatever reports you wish, Captain. The Council will consider your recommendations. Thexnar out. The screen went dark abruptly. The Arxian bridge was completely silent for several seconds. Then Drellmon started clapping his hands together. It was the Arxian way of showing approval and respect. Soon the entire bridge crew was clapping. Ventara had stood up to the Galactic Council itself to defend the humans who saved them. On the Valiant, Jake opened a communication channel. Captain Venatara, I hope you heard that exchange just now. Ventara's face appeared on his screen. She looked a bit nervous about what she had just done. Yes, Captain Morrison. I hope you do not mind. I felt it was necessary to speak the truth. Mind? Captain, I want to thank you. What you just did was brave. Speaking up for humans to the Galactic Council might cause problems for you. Some species will not be happy about it. Let me worry about that, Ventara said with more confidence than she felt. Captain, may I ask you a question? Why does humanity stay on the edges of galactic society? With your technology and your capabilities, you could demand a seat on the council. You could force other species to accept you. Why do you not do that? Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking about his answer. Because we learned something important back on Earth a long time ago. You cannot force people to accept you. You cannot make them like you through threats or demonstrations of power. Real acceptance, real friendship has to be earned. It has to grow naturally over time. He leaned forward. We are patient, Captain. We help where we can. We prove ourselves through our actions instead of our words. We show people who we really are instead of telling them. Eventually, the galaxy will see past the scary stories and the Deathworlder reputation. They will see that we are just people. Different people, sure. People from a hard place. But still just people trying to do our best. That understanding will come. It just takes time. And what are we? Ventara asked. My crew and I, what are we to you? Jake smiled warmly. You are the beginning, Captain. You are the first ones brave enough to look past your fear and see the truth. You are the ones who will tell others what really happened here. And maybe, just maybe, you are the start of something bigger. The start of real friendship between humans and the rest of the galaxy. The fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel together. The human warships and the single Arxian research vessel traveled side by side through the strange realm between normal space where physics got weird and distances became meaningless. Inside the luminous Accord, the crew was busy writing reports about what had happened. Every detail was being documented. The attack by the Krenth, the human response, the rescue operation, the medical treatment, the repairs, the meal they shared together, everything. Kelvus was writing a very long report about human engineering. He included detailed notes about how the humans had repaired their engines. He added observations about human strength and how careful they were despite that strength. He wrote about Carlos Diaz and his pictures of his children. He was trying to paint a complete picture of humans as more than just Deathworld predators. In the medical bay, the Arxian doctor was examining the equipment that Linda Hayes had left behind. It was incredibly advanced. Portable devices that could heal injuries that would normally require major surgery. Medicines that worked faster and better than anything the Arxians had. There was enough equipment here to save hundreds of lives in the future. Captain Ventara sat in her office and began writing her official report to the Arxian collective. She started with the facts. The attack. The distress call. The human response. But then she added something more. She added her observations about human behavior. She wrote about their gentleness despite their strength. She wrote about their willingness to help strangers. She wrote about the look in Captain Morrison's eyes when he talked about earning acceptance instead of demanding it. She wrote, I believe we have been fundamentally wrong about humanity. Yes, they are from a death world. Yes, they are physically powerful and capable of great violence, but they are also capable of great kindness. They choose to help instead of hurt. They choose to build instead of destroy. They choose to earn friendship instead of taking it by force. These are not the actions of mindless predators. These are the actions of a deeply moral people who value life and dignity. I recommend immediate diplomatic contact with humanity. I recommend we learn from them. And I recommend we correct the harmful stereotypes that have kept us apart. 3 days later, the combined fleet arrived at Waystation Tiberius. It was a massive space station that served as a trading hub for dozens of different species. Ships of all kinds came and went constantly. It was neutral territory where everyone was supposed to be welcome. As the luminous Accord docked at the station, Ventara noticed something interesting. Other ships were giving the human warships a wide berth. They were staying far away, clearly nervous about the human presence. But the human ships just maintained their position calmly, not threatening anyone, not starting trouble. Captain Morrison contacted her one final time before they parted ways. Captain Ventara, it has been an honor working with you. Your ship will be in good hands at the station. They have excellent repair facilities here. If you need anything at all, do not hesitate to contact the Valiant. We will be in the area for another week. Thank you, Captain Morrison. Thank you for everything. I hope our paths cross again someday. I hope so too, Jake said with a warm smile. Take care of yourself and your crew. And Captain, thank you for giving us a chance. Thank you for... 2 months had passed since the incident in the Kepler sector. Captain Venetara was back at the Arxian homeworld, standing in a large conference room filled with government officials and military leaders. Her report had caused quite a stir in the collective. Some people were excited. Others were angry. Many were simply confused. The High Council member named Selthara stood at the front of the room. She was old and respected, her blue skin paler with age, her purple eyes still sharp and intelligent. Captain Venetara, she said in her careful way of speaking, we have read your report many times. We have examined all the data you provided. We have reviewed the recordings from your ship. Now we need you to tell us in your own words what it was like to be rescued by humans. Ventara stood up straight. It was terrifying at first, she said honestly. When we realized humans were responding to our distress call, my entire crew was afraid. We all knew the stories. We believed humans were dangerous predators who could not be trusted. We thought we might die either way, killed by Krenth pirates or killed by human soldiers." She paused, looking around the room at all the worried faces. "But that is not what happened. The humans came and they saved us. They were professional and skilled. They were gentle with us even though they could have easily hurt us. They fixed our ship. They healed our wounded. They drove away the pirates, and they asked for nothing in return." An official named Krentok spoke up. He was known for being conservative and cautious, but surely they must have wanted something. Humans do not act without selfish reasons. They must have had some plan. "Their plan was to help people who needed help," Ventara said firmly. "I know that sounds simple. I know it is hard to believe. But I spent time with them. I ate meals with them. I talked with Captain Morrison about human philosophy and culture. They genuinely believe in helping others. It is part of their moral code." Another official asked, "Are they really as strong as the stories say?" "Stronger," Ventara admitted. "I watched 2 human engineers lift a support beam that weighed thousands of pounds. They just picked it up with their hands like it was nothing. I saw their ships, their weapons, their technology. They are incredibly dangerous if they want to be. But that is the important part. They do not want to be dangerous. They choose to be helpful instead." High Council member Salthara leaned forward. "Captain, you recommended that we open diplomatic relations with humanity. That is a big step. The Galactic Council will not be happy. Many species will see this as a betrayal of the unspoken agreement to keep humans isolated. Are you certain this is the right path?" Ventara thought about Captain Morrison and his crew. She thought about Linda Hayes showing her pictures of her dog with such obvious love. She thought about Carlos Diaz talking about his children. She thought about young Lieutenant Peters carefully treating her crew with such gentleness despite his strength. "I am certain," she said. "The galaxy has been wrong about humans. We have let fear control our decisions. We have judged an entire species based on where they come from instead of who they are. That is not justice. That is not wisdom. That is just prejudice. And we need to be better than that." The room was quiet. Then Salthara did something unexpected. She smiled. "I agree with you, Captain. Your report has convinced me. We will begin formal diplomatic contact with humanity. It will take time. There will be resistance, but it is the right thing to do." Across the galaxy on Waystation Tiberius, Captain Jake Morrison was having his own meeting. He sat in a conference room with Admiral Patricia Cole, the commander of the human forces in this sector of space. She was reviewing his report about the Luminous Accord incident. "You created quite a situation here, Jake," the Admiral said. She did not sound angry, just amused. "The Galactic Council has sent 3 formal complaints about human vessels operating in civilian areas. We were responding to a distress call, Admiral. That is our duty, I know. And you did the right thing. But now the Council is nervous. They are worried that this will start a trend, that more species will start accepting human help, that we will become more integrated into galactic society." Jake raised an eyebrow. "And that is a problem because—" Admiral Cole laughed. "It is not a problem for us, but it is a problem for them. The current power structure in the galaxy is based partly on keeping humanity at arm's length. If that changes, a lot of political arrangements will need to change too. Some species will lose influence. Others will gain it. Change is always scary for politicians." She closed the report file and looked at Jake directly. "But here is the interesting part. Captain Ventara's report has been leaked to the galactic news networks. Everyone is reading about how humans saved an Arxian ship, how they were gentle and kind and professional. Public opinion is starting to shift. Other species are starting to ask questions about why humans are kept isolated." "Good," Jake said. "Maybe it is time for some changes." "Maybe it is," the Admiral agreed. "In the meantime, I am assigning the Valiant to patrol the border regions. Keep doing what you are doing. Keep responding to distress calls. Keep proving that humans can be trusted. Let our actions speak louder than the old stories." Meanwhile, on a Krenth pirate base hidden in an asteroid field, a very different conversation was happening. The 3 ships that attacked the Luminous Accord had returned to report to their commander, a brutal warrior named Greshikar. "You ran away from one damaged Arxian ship?" Greshikar roared. "You let prey escape?" "They called for help," one of the ship captains explained nervously. "Humans came. A whole battle group. We would have been destroyed if we stayed." Greshikar's anger faded into something else, something like respect mixed with fear. "Humans, so the rumors are true. They are expanding their patrols into this sector. What should we do? Another captain asked. Greshkar thought carefully. The Krenth had ruled these regions through fear and violence for decades. They attacked weak civilian ships and took what they wanted. It was profitable and easy. But humans changed the equation. Humans were not weak. Humans fought back, and apparently, humans protected others. Pass the word to all our ships, Greshkar finally said. Avoid any vessel that might have human protection. If you see human warships, retreat immediately. Do not engage. Do not take chances. Humans are not prey. They are fellow predators, and we do not fight fellow predators unless absolutely necessary. It was a smart decision. Word spread quickly through the pirate networks. Ships with human escorts were now off limits. The risk was too high. This meant that civilian ships near human patrol routes were suddenly much safer. Nobody intended it, but the human presence was bringing peace to regions that had been dangerous for years. Back on the Arxian homeworld, Ventara received a message on her personal communication device. It was from Captain Morrison. She opened it with curiosity. Captain Ventara, the message began, I hope this finds you well. I wanted you to know that Linda Hayes has finished compiling a medical database for treating various non-human species. She based a lot of it on her experience treating your crew. She asked me to send it to you. Maybe your doctors can use it to help others. Also, Carlos wants to know if your engineers would be interested in an exchange program. He thinks human and Arxian engineers could learn a lot from each other. Let me know what you think, and thank you again for speaking up for us. It meant a lot. Morrison out. Ventara smiled as she read the message. She sent back a reply immediately, agreeing to both the medical database and the engineering exchange. This was how friendships grew. Small gestures, shared knowledge, working together toward common goals. Over the following weeks, things began to change across the galaxy. It was not a fast change. It was not dramatic, but it was real. The story of the Luminous Accord spread. Other species heard about it. Some dismissed it as propaganda. Others were curious. A few were convinced that maybe humans were not as bad as the story suggested. A merchant captain from the Thalon Expanse sent a message to Human Command, asking if human ships could escort his cargo convoy through dangerous space. He was willing to pay. The humans agreed but refused payment. We do not charge people for helping them stay safe, they said. The Thalon captain could not believe it. But the escort happened exactly as promised. His ships arrived safely. He told everyone he knew about the professional human escorts who asked for nothing in return. A research station studying a dangerous anomaly requested human assistance with some heavy construction work. Human engineers came and helped. They shared meals with the researchers. They talked about their families and their lives. They proved to be intelligent and educated, not the mindless brutes that some species imagined. One by one, human interactions with other species became more common. And almost every interaction went well. There were a few incidents where cultural misunderstandings caused problems. There were a few humans who did not represent their species well. But mostly humans proved to be exactly what Captain Morrison had described. Just people trying to do their best. 6 months after the Kepler Sector incident, the Arxian Collective formally announced a diplomatic and military alliance with humanity. It was the first such alliance any species had made with humans. The announcement shocked the Galactic Council. Counselor Thexnar was furious. He gave a speech about how the Arxians